how are you all doing? Let's get started with the information. We're broadcasting live and, as you can see, things are getting intense. In Iran, the protests have already spread to 50 cities according to reports. And here you can see this image, this supposed image. I say supposed because obviously there's chaos, so we have to wait for confirmation. But did the tribute, this statue honoring the dictator Abraham Rasim, collapse? This happened in the city of Aldiv. There are many images of protests happening right now in different parts of Iran. They are talking about 50 cities, which would be these, according to what was published in an Iranian media outlet. Independently, he states the following. Mass protests have spread to 50 cities. The regime's security forces are overwhelmed and can't be everywhere at the same time, so they can't stop everyone, if everyone protests. And this, well, obviously has been spreading. Different images show, well, that the protests are not only happening, let's put it this way, more of them are taking place. There you can see the Iranian Revolutionary Guard operating against the people, against those who are acting against the Ayatollah's regime as well. Well, at night they really went all out. They have been trying to burn government buildings. Apparently, some have succeeded, others have not. Political prisoners have also been released. Well, there have been some very intense situations, for example in Komno, where there have been some pretty tough clashes. Let's review what's known so far. He must be thinking about it, right? The Crown Prince. No, here we see this person. He is in Egypt. He lives in Egypt, but the Crown Prince, the Shah's son, is not. What must he be thinking right now? He reportedly plans to return and call for elections within 100 days not to regain power. No, we don't know if it's in combination with the Shah or with a government that's supposedly monarchical, democratic in quotes, but without a parliament. And this would be kind of like the United Kingdom. Who knows what the plan is, but he insists he's had one for a while and it's not new. He has said several times that he has a plan for returning to a country more open to the world, a country that would be led by this person. At least that's one of the proposals out there, not necessarily the one that will happen. What does Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian say? Let's listen, among some comments and self-criticism made by the current president of Iran.
Can we do these things? People are dissatisfied, we are responsible. You are responsible. Don't look to the United States, don't look for someone else. We are the ones who must serve so that they are satisfied with us. We are the ones who must manage our own affairs well. We are the ones who must find the way and solve the problem. We are the ones who must make an effort and find solutions to these problems. We can't just sit around waiting for someone to give us money to spend. We become managers of expenses, not managers of income, quality, efficiency, and productivity. We just spend. Now I say that we consume 3 times, 6 times more electricity than Europe in terms of figures and numbers. They have money and we don't, so they say our people are hungry. Well, we manage things poorly.
I mean, poor management, that's for sure. They say, don't blame the United States, don't go around saying it's them, it's out there. No, I mean, they're the ones with the problem. A lot of energy is used and apparently they don't have it. Masoud commented on a series of figures. Did they remain? But what's curious? What stands out is the fact that, well, there's some self-criticism, which is something that doesn't usually happen. Now, maybe it's just to calm the protests. That's true. We don't know, right? But probably. But the point is that the protests, well, people are really angry, and right now we're going to talk to you about the different reactions and what's happening in these protests. If you're just joining the live stream, go ahead and leave your comment. I appreciate those who have already given a like and those who, well, at least support us with a comment. Just to know, how are you all doing? How's it going? How is the year starting off for you? It would be great to know, but right now we'll get to that, not to comments yet. Several global issues caught my attention today. Iran's protests have reached a critical point. There have already been some fatalities, in fact, since there have been shootings in the streets, right? The situation in Iran is getting more complicated, and not only is it spreading, but the protests are now so widespread that it's difficult for them to control them. And this could truly lead to a change. The massive protests have entered an unprecedented phase in just 5 days. Today, 3 people have died in the movement from security forces' gunfire. One of them is named Darius Ansari, another is named Amir Hassim, 22 years old, and another person named Shazan Shayan, or rather Asadoleh, who was 28 years old. One in Fostat, another in Kuzdat, and another in Azda. According to reports, according to testimonies, these people were attacked with military-type weapons by the Revolutionary Guard while they were returning from the demonstrations. They weren't at the demonstration, they were heading back when they were fired upon. The most shocking thing is that the protesters have reached Qom, a city that is sacred and considered the ideological core of the Shiite Islamic regime. Now, protests are happening there too. So, the most conservative, most orthodox area, they're protesting there too. That's why the protest in Qom is so important. They've been chanting things like, the clerics must disappear. That's what they call not just the Ayatollah, but all of them, the entire regime. Slogans in favor of the monarchy, an absolute novelty. Well, in 50 years there hadn't been a protest with so many slogans in favor of the monarchy. In 5 decades, fires have been reported near police stations, like in Asna, and attacks on clerical symbols, such as the office of the Friday prayer leader in Yunkan, which was set on fire. The movement has become national and includes various social classes. Young people, merchants, workers, there are all kinds of people involved. In various videos, direct fire from the security forces is shown where some of the protesters have been shot. Let's move on to other points about what's happening inside Iran, which are also important. Check out what's next. The president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian. A moment ago, I showed you the image where he was making a self-criticism. But now he issues a pretty strong warning to his own government and basically says he wants his own colleagues that they could go to hell. That's basically how he says it in the speech, which is already resonating within Iran's forces. President Masoud Pezeshkian warned that regime officials will go to hell if they don't solve their problems from the people. Quoting directly from his book Sakana, or the Quran. This is happening amid a new wave of protests, an economic collapse, and a drought itself. He said they were at war with Europe, Israel, and the United States. During his speech, Pezeshkian acknowledged that the blame does not lie with external enemies, but with the government itself. So let's listen to this part where he talks about not placing the blame. He says, "Don't go around saying it's the United States," he says. In other words, they themselves are the problem in that matter. He gives several issues and warnings. Let's discuss the details.
Can we do these things? People are dissatisfied. We are responsible. You are responsible. Don't look to the United States. Don't look for someone else. We are the ones who must.
It's us, he says, in order to meet the needs of the Iranians, right? He says, if we don't solve the people's problems, we'll go to hell, says Masoud Pezeshkian, according to reports. He added that those behind the crisis are domestic, not foreign. The rial, Iran's currency, plummeted, forcing the resignation of the president of that country's central bank. The death of a paramilitary member in Kansas has also been confirmed, and there are already dozens of people detained. The president suggests dialogue and self-criticism over repression. Remember that, okay? The president asking not to repress the people. At least that's what he says publicly. Not sure about privately, but that's his public statement, right? Unlike the repression that happened in the case of Masha Amini, now the signs are different. Why? Because there has been less repression than in other cases, like the case of Masha Amini. Also, the international reaction, watch out, he's there, you know? I mean, the so-called new Iranian president, he's there precisely because there was discontent after Masha Amini when people protested and when they were repressed. Very harsh. He gained power because people no longer wanted anyone associated with the Ayatollah. The protests are spreading in 50 cities, and analysts warn that the regime is rapidly losing social support. Although for now, no visible structural changes can be seen, Pezeshkian's language suggests that there is an internal rupture. And this, well, could maybe bring about a change, right? There's another important point as well. During the 5th day of protests, social tension has escalated so much that now they're talking about judicial buildings being taken over and several headquarters of that branch of government being set on fire. According to reports, in the north of Gant and the southwest of Tehran, there have also been intensifying disturbances in those areas. Protesters have attacked public buildings, including the governor's office, the local mosque, banks, and regional government offices. The security forces have responded with tear gas, but they haven't been able to contain the people's anger. This is a rather intense outbreak. Meanwhile, the riel is at its worst historical moment, and, well, it seems like it's going to keep falling. The Tehran regime has issued a warning to the Attorney General, in which, well, it says, while peaceful protests are legitimate, any attempt to create insecurity or destroy public property will be met with a legal and forceful response. They assure this then that they will put pressure if the unrest continues. So, the government could get really tough on the protesters if this keeps going, right? According to this, there's another thing that also catches my attention right now, and that's if you remember this man from Kadyrov. Well, they say that he's been urgently hospitalized for a week now. You know, he's had several health problems. This Chechen figure, not the Chechen leader, well, they say that Ramzan Kadyrov has been urgently hospitalized for a week. The Chechen leader was expected to participate in a state council meeting with Putin and other regional heads on December 25, but he didn't show up. So, well, more or less, since that date until now, nobody really knows what his health condition is. Not really. He was in very serious condition at one point. He recovered, but apparently his health problems have continued. For this person, right? Well, also, other matters that draw attention today are that this report is being announced, so we'll have to wait and see what details come out. But it seems that Israel is going to launch a plan, a new front to protect Christians in Africa and the Middle East. This could possibly be with the United States, but we'll have to wait to see if this matter is confirmed. Let's listen a bit to what he says, what he comments. This is Nataliayo.
Has made being Jewish impossible. It's hard for me to conceive the emergence of the Jewish state, the re-emergence of the Jewish state without the support of Christian Zionists. In the United States, also in Britain, but the main thrust was in the United States in the 19th century.
Well, he's talking about the Christians who supported the state of Israel at the time. And well, in response to this, he says that, well, they apparently plan to support the Christians who are in Africa and the Middle East. So, well, that could be an important move on his part. We'll see if that happens. In the meantime, let's move on to other important matters. Thank you very much. Thank you for this comment and thank you for this super chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much to the whole community that makes the effort to support this channel with a super chat. With a membership, it's also greatly appreciated, and thanks to the people who are subscribed. Greetings to Salvaje Mr. Pepe. The world is waking up. I send you a big greeting. Hope you're doing well. And to the rest, let's go to the comments. Well, what other things have been happening in the world, right? Let's get into the details of other interesting topics as well. First of all, let me tell you what's happening with this situation that took place in Switzerland. It's tremendous, but we won't go into detail. As far as we know, it started in Pernod. The start of the new year in Transmontana was marked by a tragedy. At the Le Castellon bar, where a fire broke out in the early hours of January 1st, nearly 40 people died and 115 were injured according to authorities. All the evidence collected so far has allowed the authorities to rule out the possibility of an attack. It was determined the explosion heard at 1:30 a.m. was caused by the fire. So, the authorities of that country have ruled out that it was an attack, as was initially stated. What is true is that it's an incident in which many people lost their lives and which is currently under investigation. The police confirmed that the fire broke out in that establishment in one of the most highly regarded ski resorts in Europe. Obviously, this was reduced to ashes. The people who managed to get out survived, but clearly there were people who didn't make it. Really tough, right? But that's also part of what's happening right now. Will there be a response to this from the authorities? And the people who were there in the area are gathering all the testimonies to determine what happened. The smell is burnt, you can feel it, you can smell it from a block away, they say. Well, I want to send greetings to the people watching us over there, to the Spanish-speaking people on that side. A difficult night, definitely an extremely tough start for that country, right? Let's move on to other details about what's happening in the world. A Russian report says over 200 drones attacked critical infrastructure in Ukraine. This occurred in the early hours of the year. That's how today began. In that war, according to reports, the massive attack, the first attack, let's say, of 2026, was carried out with 200 Shahed drones and also other Gerbera drones. According to reports, there is one person dead, several injured, and it is confirmed that out of the 200 drones, 176 were shot down. And so, what they report is that Russia is deliberately seeking to prolong the war and is asking its allies not to stop the delivery of air defense systems to Ukraine. Obviously, it's a very tough situation they're going through right now. By the way, there's also another terrible situation, isn't there? This happened in Amsterdam, and it happened on the 31st, a fire that also broke out in that region, in a church. That's terrible. I'm sure they're reporting on it as well. The historic church, a 19th century historic church in Amsterdam, was left in ashes. After a chaotic night with 2 people killed by fireworks and unprecedented attacks against the police, the huge fire destroyed a 19th century church in Amsterdam. Meanwhile, the Netherlands experienced a New Year's Eve with unrest, with 2 people dead. And well, today, Thursday, it was still burning. That is, from the 31st to the 1st. The church was still under fire, and at least part of it has been reduced to ashes. A 50-meter high tower collapsed. The roof suffered severe damage, and it is expected that at least a good part of the structure can be saved. They hope that this can be saved, at least the central part of the church. And this, well, will have to go through a repair process. In Germany, 2 young people also lost their lives in Wienfeld when they set off homemade fireworks that caused injuries to their faces. And well, enough for them to lose their lives, according to what the local police say. Well, a very, very shocking start, obviously, in this sense. Also, well, there are other matters that draw attention today. It's a very unusual situation in Ukraine, but at the same time, very strategic. Right. I mean, there's a group, I'm not sure if you remember Kursk. Do you remember Kursk when they say Ukraine took Kursk, right? And took Belgrade and so on. Well, we have to remember that this group, those soldiers, are Russians. I mean, they're Russians who have been operating for years, ever since the war in Ukraine began. But do they actually have Russian passports? And it's all a group of Russian soldiers who are pretty tough, pretty intense, and who support Ukraine. That group is the one that took Kursk, the one that took a bit of Belgrade too. Remember, at one point they practically took all of Kursk and took part of Belgrade, right? Well, if you remember that conflict, that moment when everyone was surprised, how was it possible that Ukraine could also take a piece of Russia? Well, that happened in part thanks to them and their leader. Well, obviously there's a high price that they offer, a high price for taking someone's life, right? For that person, right? Russia offers a lot of money for whoever takes his life, right? I mean, basically a bounty, right? So suddenly a few days ago it was said, again, Russia says, we've already given the $500,000 reward because this person has already been eliminated. Ukrainian intelligence just proved that all of that was a trap. They kept the money from the Russians, and well, the person is alive and they put him on screen. It's not about, and well, the thing is that, well, it draws attention today. He appears in a call, let's say not a video call, and the intelligence officer talks to him. This Kirillov Kudanov says, welcome to life. Well, he doesn't actually say welcome to life, and well, it's simply one of the intelligence operations which they claim are bolder. On January 1st, the head of Ukrainian military intelligence, Kirillov Kudanov, revealed that his team faked the death of Denis Kapustin, leader of the Russian Volunteer Corps, an armed group opposed to Putin. The AN. The announcement was made at a press conference with a video released on Telegram, where Bundanov Kudanov publicly congratulated Kudanov. He congratulated Kapustin, the Russian whom Russia had supposedly eliminated, and the special unit Timur for the success of the operation. This money will be used then for more defense for Ukraine. The news then comes after December 27th, when Russian media began to say that he had lost his life. Kapustin, also known as White Rex, that's what they call him, during a mission in the Zaporizhzhia region. They reported it was a psychological operation meant to deceive Russian intelligence, which had placed a $500,000 bounty on his head. What's even more shocking is not only that his death was avoided, but first his death was avoided, and then the money was taken. And now the network that was going to take his life has already been uncovered. So, obviously they also did their part with that network, because that network is in Ukraine, so that network started operating for Russia to eliminate this person. They already figured out which network it is, they already did their thing with that network, and they kept the money. And well, is this then a matter of an intelligence war from one side against the other? Well, that's intense. Let's move on to other important matters. These 3 points we're seeing here on the screen are something that has caught the attention of National Aeronautics and Space Administration over there. According to what is shown, there is an investigation that National Aeronautics and Space Administration is conducting in which these, well, objects. These points have been detected by the James Webb. It is suspected that they could be hidden black holes in growth, but for now it is something unknown. Were they detected? Something that, well, has puzzled not only National Aeronautics and Space Administration, but has also puzzled the scientific community. These enigmatic red dots that have appeared in the early universe do not fit with current cosmological models, although they do not pose any risk to Earth. They are far away, but these objects could, they say, be an important discovery for understanding the evolution of the universe and the Earth. These objects could rewrite everything we thought we knew about the early evolution of galaxies and black holes, they say. These points, they say, are not stars, nor are they galaxies. They are a new type of compact object, intensely red, with a local infrared spectrum located billions of light years away. Detected for the first time by Conseil Européen pour la Recherche Nucléaire by JADS and also by NGDEP since 2022. But at the time it wasn't possible. I mean, there was an idea to discover what they were, but until now it's not clear. It states that the light from the objects is extremely redshifted due to the expansion of the universe, which indicates that these objects are extremely old. The cosmic spectrum analysis, led by astrophysicist D. L. Koshevsky, revealed that 70 of these objects show gas moving at extremely high speeds at 1,000 kilometers per second. Clear signs that the accretion disks are being fed by supermassive black holes? Or at least that's what is believed, although for now it hasn't been possible to fully understand what these objects really are. What is certain is that they would break the cosmology of light because of the light spectra they have. Because of all that, let's say certain fundamental laws of what is understood in cosmology would have to be reconsidered. For example, they have some anomalies, like they don't emit or almost don't emit X-rays. This suggests that these black holes are deeply buried in gas, which prevents their energy from escaping in that band. It would also be a case of black holes growing in a dark and intense phase, which is just beginning to be understood thanks to the James Webb Telescope. The good news is, more is coming. A new publication for Astrophysics, the journal, this first one was published, and there's another publication coming to try to look at other theories about what these objects could be and to determine. Well, there are already things at the universe's edges, at least as far as we can see. That, well, is also truly amazing. And, by the way, we are preparing a series of reports because the United States congressman had been very quiet on the subject of the unidentified. But in the last few hours, several interesting publications have come out on the subject. So we'll do a summary of what's happening with these congressmen who have been following up on this for several years now. Already with the revelations being made by some former Pentagon or intelligence officials on the subject of UAPs, but also in the new program documentation that is being done or investigative documentation that is being carried out based on research, the information that is being declassified, and so far it hasn't been declassified for the people, for the public, but has only been declassified for the congressmen. They halted much of the declassification that was supposed to happen in September and still haven't released it, though they insist it's coming. There are several concerning issues because for some reason there's pressure to keep this classified. And we'll also talk later about who is reporting this pressure so that the topic isn't discussed. What's going on with that issue? And we'll reveal it gradually. That will be an interesting topic as well. Today, there's also another issue that draws attention. Sending our regards to the Chilean community, as Chilisa mentioned. Some time ago, there was Chile's first major earthquake, but don't worry, nothing serious happened. I mean, it was a 4.2 and 4 in this central part of Chile, right? That draws attention. Today is not the most important earthquake. The most important earthquake today was magnitude 6. This happened in the Indian Ocean, something it's not that common, right? You don't see it every day. Well, on this side, earthquakes are almost always more like in the Ring of Fire, right? But this time, this is the Ring of Fire. And if you look at this area, right? Despite being in the Ring of Fire, earthquakes are rare here. It's already by the Pacific, but I won't point it out since there's one here and another there. But there's really little activity. There tends to be little activity in that sense. Later, we'll be talking about how the weather is going in the United States, in Europe, in Mexico, in America in general. We'll be discussing that topic. How did the dollar start the day? Well, it seems like the dollar is gaining a bit of strength right now. A little later, after a while, quite a while, the drop began. Look, if we see it here, for example, here it's about the peso, right? How long has this drop been happening? Because the drop has been going on for a while. It's been since here. The sharp drop started April 2025. That's when the sharp drop begins. 2025, yes, because it was already steady in 2024, starting April 2025 in these price ranges. It started to fall the dollar against the Mexican peso. Well, there's a slight recovery, very slight, we can see it here. There it is. No, that's this part. By the way, I think there's no gold activity today, not just because it's Monday, I guess. Let's see if anyone opened. There's no gold activity today, so we don't know how gold is doing. Bitcoin never closes. Bitcoin is just boring. It doesn't move up or down. It's been sideways for a while. But if you notice, each time the volatility is lower, and at some point it has to go up or down, but it has to do something. I mean, right now buyers and sellers are undecided, buyers, sellers. It's at a point where something must happen, so we'll be watching that closely. And what's happening with oil is also happening with other important assets. But let's move on to the comments. Hello, how are you, Tapatia? Happy New Year. To the whole community watching us live or later, thank you so much for joining us for a little while. He says he's not around there. He says, I can't believe that you believe that it's billions of light years away. I also can't believe that you don't believe that. I mean, who knows what you believe in your worldview, right? This Miguel must have a really crazy worldview. Let's not say no, but anyway, I send you greetings and all the best. I hope you're doing well. Greetings to the whole community and... Well, I want to be around here, he says. Okay. Thank you. BJ Diogo, greetings, Armando. How have you been? Happy New Year. How are you doing, Armando? Greetings. No, it's not surprising at this time of year at this point because there are people who have a really strange worldview, right? Yeah, really strange, right? In which, well, possibly, well, there is a lot of diversity, let's say. There will still be people who, well, see the sun and they don't think that maybe it's an image or that it's a screen or, I don't know, radio. I'm not saying that this person, but there are a lot of very strange views that reach us here. Very curious. I mean, it's curious, right? At this point in the game, right? He says, Dorian, how have you been? Greetings, Dorian X. How are you? How's it going? How is 2026 starting off? And suddenly, if it's really interesting, how does this let's go happen? And well, visions, not visions, suddenly they come up in many things, in many topics, not just religious topics, but political topics too. And here the interesting thing would be to dare to open your mind, not to open your mind. Based on evidence, based on data, based on information, based on observation, right? That's what's important. What if with that you have a vision or being, each person has in whatever it is, in any topic, politics, economics, whatever it may be. That's great because everyone has their own level of analysis, right? Greetings to the whole community. Hey, so how does this year start? Geopolitically not very intense, but definitely intense overall. Also regarding the scientific topic and what's happening, let's say, in the astronomical field. No, it's already pretty loaded for being day one, and day one isn't even over yet. And well, there is data that challenges many scientists right now. So it will be really interesting to see how the year unfolds. Don't they say that this year will also be the end of many things that have been developing for a long time? No, what if I see it? I mean, what's happening with Congress, the United States, what's happening with the 37, what's happening with, well, these new tools they're putting in space and showing us, well, also some pretty curious things. That light, how has Dorian been? Very good. Greetings also to Leonardo. Very good. Thank you for being here. Eliseo, how are you? Very good, he says. Greetings. I woke up early today and listened to the broadcasts. Thank you, Rigoberto. We're beginning our second broadcast of the day, 1/2026, and we'll be here tonight. Obviously, if something urgent comes up and we're wherever we are, out on the street or wherever, we'll be broadcasting something short. But at night, that's when we come alive and have a long, relaxed chat. Greetings. Yesterday, how have you been all the way to Coyoacan? Mexico City. Yesterday? What is the second person I know like the one named yesterday? Look, I only know 2 people in my life with that name. He sent you greetings yesterday. Yesterday number 2, let's say, because he's not the second one I know. Caribel, how have you been? Greetings from Eliseo. How is Sol Garcia? How are you? How have you been? He says, they said to move the money from the place because of the drops, and I moved it from the stock market. Greetings, he says. Well, you are as you are. Happy New Year, Jose. All the way to Venezuela. Very good. Well, to the whole community, Happy New Year. Hope you have a great time. We'll keep talking later and let's see how the day goes for us, Dorian says. I hope it's November, that by November, he says, this year people will go out to see if they still feel like it. They extended his release date again. Are you going to do it? It's kind of crazy now, isn't it? And hopefully it comes out too, since there are several games pending. It doesn't matter. If the third one ever comes out again, wouldn't that be awesome? I'm not playing right now, I'm doing this. When I started yesterday or the day before, it was a game that's a classic. I already mentioned the game's name, but it's highly recommended. I've never played those games because I don't know. I didn't play. I started to begin with. I mean, I never played. I only started a few years ago. Well, it's been about 8 years since I started playing. But before that, no. Well, here I have the game. It's called Half-Life 2. I know a lot of people know it. I skipped the story, more or less. I never played the first one. I jumped to the second one. I watched more of the ending of the third one on YouTube, and then I went back to the second one. Since the first one's graphics already seem outdated to me, but the second one is still bearable, I prefer the second one. Yesterday I finished the first chapter. I hope to tell you how it goes for me, not later on, but I did start it, and I began, obviously not right here. They started it right here, but not me. Greetings, says Joshua. Thank you, greetings. How have you been? Very good, Patrick. How have you been, Eliseo? A hug to the whole community. May we all be well. We'll keep talking. Have an excellent year, and, well, see you later tonight. If something urgent comes up, we'll discuss it briefly in a live stream and interrupt your regular programming. See you later. Thank you for seeking the truth. This is PP Life.
The truth is intense.
The unusual is real.
We analyze it here. Global focus. Don't miss out. Tune in to the PP Live channel. Controlling the signal. Pepe and Astrid telling it like it is. Raw journalism. Here it's respected. Turn on notifications. Don't lose track until next time. Yes, sir. We're taking attendance. Subscribe.